Hello and welcome again to One Another Marriage with Dr. David and Theresa Mabry, where we seek to strengthen relationships so that they may have greater satisfaction, fulfillment, and impact on the world around them. So, hey, we're all about making your marriage strong.
Yes.
So you feel better about it and you can help others. That's another way of saying it. So, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a perfect way of saying it.
And today's a fun day, right? Because
Today is a fun day.
we just had a rain come through.
We did.
And we took a walk earlier.
We did.
And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful summer day, and August is here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not blazing hot out right now, but it's a nice kind of summer in central Ohio where we're at.
We actually have the windows open, which is great. We're not running the AC, which is awesome.
Do you have the windows open where you're at in your world?
I don't know. Someone can comment and let us know if they do.
Where can they comment at, hon?
Or I guess you can, comment. You can, yeah. We still are trying to figure that out.
Yeah, Facebook. Yeah. Facebook, go to One Another Marriage. Facebook,
go to One Another Marriage.
YouTube.
Right.
The YouTubes.
Yeah. When you see the podcast. Yeah. If you go to our YouTube channel, One Another Marriage, and we have the podcast episodes listed there as well, and you can comment there.
Yeah. And there is a podcast platform called Reason, and you can find it at reason.fm, and we're on that platform. And that is one of the only ones where there's a
comment feature,
a comment and interaction feature to it.
Yeah.
So if you want, listen on reason.fm. We're not earning any money there. It's just that, so they are not a sponsor. But
once again, none of these people are sponsors, so we are not.
But you can listen there. But most of you really like your Apple podcast and listening on your Apple device as you're carrying it around. So today we have some good stuff, right?
Right. So we're actually going to, in this episode, we're going to be talking about intimacy again. And I know we've talked about it before, but we just can never stress enough the importance of intimacy. But this is not just a physical intimacy. So we're going to be actually unpacking some of the different layers and a couple of different keys that you need to have good intimacy in your marriage, in your relationship.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the broadest definition of intimacy, and which beyond, it's not just about many people, when they hear intimacy, they think it's all about the bedroom.
Right, exactly. And so hang with us. That is not what we're unpacking today. And I think, if you do hang with us and you listen all the way through, you'll understand this comes up for you and I. This comes up on a regular basis as we're coaching couples. As we're talking with couples. And this has been, we've been doing this now since 2006. Yeah. So this whole premise really does make or break couples. It really does.
That's right. Hey, a little full disclosure before we get rock and rolling here is that
letting everybody know,
folks, Theresa and I have been battling a head cold, both of us.
So if we sound a little bit different,
so if we sound, I have a lozenge in my mouth, or if we sound a little nasally, we apologize.
Or if we cough off the side,
we're going to try our best.
I don't know. We're going to try our best. We've actually delayed a couple of days on this recording just to try and get. Yesterday, I didn't have much of a voice even. Yeah. Which happens.
Here we are.
So
we are soldiering on, ladies and gentlemen. We're glad that you have joined us. It actually gives me, I think it gives us both a more of a radio voice. But for me, it's like a guy radio voice is different. And like you, that's like when yours is lower register.
Right.
You sound like Delilah. I knew it.
There it is.
I knew that's all I had to do is bring up Delilah and you would break out the song.
Yep.
By the way, Delilah's show is not sponsoring this one.
I don't even know. Does Delilah still have a show?
I think she does.
That's a puzzle.
That is a puzzle.
Does Delilah still have a show? I mean, okay, if you don't even know who Delilah is,
Yeah,
we
define
got
it
we
for
got to go
folks that may not.
back. We got to go back several years. But I mean, even when we were in college,
Yeah,
Delilah had this radio show. It was no different than like
She's a
once again
DJ.
we're gonna date ourselves here too.
Yeah.
With it was no different than like a Casey Kasem,
Yeah.
with the top 40, right?
Yeah.
America's
So all of
top
our
40.
we
So
just lost all of our young couples and all our international couples.
I know.
But
Well,
here's,
like Ryan Seacrest took over for Casey Kasem, right?
there you go. That's all you had to drop.
And
is
so
Ryan Seacrest.
Seacrest is there, and so but then Delilah, she was it was a love song, and callers would call in, and
Mhm.
all this stuff, and I bet you she is still on the air. I just personally have not listened to Delilah. Of course, this is before. This is before good
Yeah.
gravy, everything, right? I mean, satellite FM, whatever. I mean, Sirius Radio, whatever. I mean, like the amount of stations you could get now compared to what you could get way back when.
Well, the key takeaway is that we have our radio voices because we have head colds.
I still don't know if I'll sound like Delilah. but-
Delilah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
There aren't as many famous women, female DJs, right? You got to think about that for a second.
That's a good question.
Like
don't
for
know.
you,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
comparing your guy radio voice, and I'm thinking, who are the women like radio voices?
Yeah, like back on when MTV started. I know we
I was
cannot
ju-
go down this rabbit trail.
Is
But-
this going to be is this our combined puzzle?
This is no. I have another puzzle
another
today,
puzzle?
which we
Okay.
probably need to get to.
Okay.
I think here's what we're deciding is
What are we deciding?
Well, probably that we need to have like a separate podcast that is about meaningless things.
Stop. Well, of course we can always talk about meaningless things, but
Yeah, so
everybody
random
can.
Random
Everybody
thoughts
can.
from David and Theresa.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's my puzzle though for the
Okay,
week.
go.
And the puzzle is this. And I have a couple puzzles, but I'm going to I think I'll just focus on one because of time's sake. And that is, we're in the thick of the Olympics right now. And
Yes, we are.
there are
The 2020 Olympics, even though it's taking place in 2021.
one station or one network, NBC is kind of the host, and they have 4 different outlets for that, like NBC Sports Network, CNBC, USA, and then NBC Maine.
Right.
And so, but here's the puzzle.
Yes.
Why in the world are we seeing, because we have all 4 channels and we kind of go from one to one because we're huge sports fans, and so we're watching the Olympics and with bated breath, just kind of watching. And excuse me.
Sorry.
And what happened is that where you can watch one game or match, and then they replay it on another one of the channels like the next day, and then another one of the channels. So in other words, I feel like I watched.
Volleyball in particular. Okay.
Watch women's volleyball.
Yeah, I'm with you now. Yep.
Watch them get beat by the Russian Olympic
Russian.
the ROC.
Yeah, the ROC.
They got beat like
The
4 different
women's.
times.
This
It's
is the women's indoor volleyball, right? Yeah.
and then the women's sand volleyball. That team, we just saw them.
We saw them last night.
They got beat by
They got beat by Canada.
Canada.
Oh, Canada. There we go.
There you go. That's for our Canadian couples.
And then like today, you turn on regular NBC here in the middle of the afternoon, and they're showing the same. I had to look at it twice because I was like, wait a minute.
I saw them lose once.
We watched this like last night.
I saw them lose
You're
once.
right. It is. That's a good puzzle because that's, yeah, I don't know. I don't understand. I get it that we're in different time zones. Like right now, it's daytime here for us, so it's nighttime for Tokyo.
It's
right?
all recorded though. It was
But
recorded
it's all,
before.
exactly. And if you're gonna play it on regular NBC channel during the day after, don't be playing it the night before on one of the other 4 networks that you're doing. I mean,
Exactly.
like,
So there's my puzzle.
I don't know. That is a good puzzle. That's strange.
That's my puzzle,
It is
hon. Is
strange.
that for the
And-
Olympics?
okay.
So show, and I feel like they didn't do this before because we've watched the Olympics every time. We're
Yeah.
Olympic fans.
Yes.
And so I feel like even though it's been on multiple outlets for the network, they show a diversity of kind of events. And so,
Well, that's what I was just going to say.
Mhm.
For having as many sports represented as what there are over there, stop repeating, because you're right, that puzzle that you've had, that has happened with women's indoor volleyball, men's indoor volleyball. We caught 2 different times on that. And then the women's beach volleyball. And then I caught, what is it about volleyball? Maybe it's maybe because volleyball is supposed to be one of the more popular sports. And so they're like, okay, we'll replay it again because, someone will catch it for the first time.
And the reality is, honey, is that we watch the Olympics because we really want to see the sports that you don't see so much. So I want to see like mixed doubles table tennis for one-legged people.
Those people are just crazy.
I mean, I want to see I want to see like the really like unique sports. I love it. I love it. It's like, so to be able to see things that we normally don't get to see is good. Oh, but I do like to see like the 3-on-3 basketball was kind of interesting to have that introduced. Yeah.
I wasn't too sure about that one. So
at any rate,
that is a puzzle. Why are we replaying the exact same games the next day? You're showing it the night before and the next day. I'm like, hello.
Yeah. Inquiring minds
especially
want to know.
In this day and age. Good Lord. If you really want to know, just pull up, online anywhere and you'll find out the results.
Yeah. Well, we do puzzles with one another, of course. If you're new to us, it's to build intimacy because you share something in your brain with your partner and it helps to connect.
Right.
And so today we're talking about intimacy.
We are.
And so what do you have for us?
All right. So I'm going to kind of dive into some things here. And this is, excuse David coughing in the background. This is,
I apologize.
This isn't necessarily information that I have read to you yet or shared with you yet. So
this is going to be a surprise.
It's nothing that is brand new to you, just due to the course of working in the marriage relationship, industry. Is it an industry?
Let's call it an industry.
For so many years. So it's not going to be anything new to you, but maybe the way we're unpacking it, or just we're just gonna kind of pontificate on some of the thoughts here.
Do it.
So so when we're talking about intimacy, a lot of times it's broken down into 3 different areas. And when we're talking about love, it's broken down into 3 different areas. There's passion, there's commitment, and there's intimacy. Passion is physical, commitment is willful, and intimacy is emotional. And we both know that based upon a lot of the research that's been done in the last however many years, intimacy can be the number 1 predictor of happiness, especially in marriage.
Who is saying this? Who's your source?
Who is saying this? Well, this is coming from Drs. Les and Leslie Parrott and Dr. David Olson.
Yeah, so the Parrotts.
And they're also utilizing research done by the Gottman Institute.
So,
as well as some old school people,
So the Parrotts have done ministry for years, or ministry or marriage work and relationship work for years, and they have a practice together in marriage therapy, and also they've written several books.
Right.
They're well worth the read, and they developed an assessment called the SYMBIS assessment. They partner with Dr. David Olson, and David Olson created the Prepare Enrich material, that assessment. And he's worked out of Minnesota for years and is a stalwart within the marriage and relationship industry.
Yep.
And he's partnered then with the Parrotts on multiple things because his assessment and then the SYMBIS assessment are very similar, and they both have the Parrotts and Olson have done a tremendous amount of research, so they can really speak into this.
Right. Okay. So, yes. So would you agree and that you have heard that we have discussed this before, that that intimacy can be the number one predictor of happiness or unhappiness in marriage.
Yeah, because you think about the opposite of it and what couples struggle with connectivity and the lack of intimacy. It can cause someone to be, they're unfulfilled,
right?
Or they're going to look elsewhere because of that lack of fulfillment, unfortunately. And it doesn't have to necessarily be with another person, but it may be an outlet through other things. But then the satisfaction level goes down within a relationship, and the tension goes higher. The ability to resolve conflict in a positive way, it lessens your ability.
Right.
And so when you build intimacy, it's kind of the stuff that communication and conflict resolution is made of. And so, yes, having, working on your intimacy, your connectivity with one another is going to make a huge difference, and it's going to have a ripple effect on every other area of your relationship and life.
Marriage. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Having an intimacy deficit, what I hear you saying is that would be toxic for couples, because that's where we're getting into, conflicts erupting, communication breaks down, everything that you were just saying, to go into that.
Now, on the other side of the coin is I responded in a negative way, like that it can negatively affect your relationship when there's a lack of intimacy. But on the positive side, when intimacy is flourishing and healthy and in a good spot,
right,
there's so much more, not just satisfaction, but joy, happiness, fulfillment in the marriage and the relationship, where it's like, no, I'm in a good spot. It's kind of like, I sat on our front porch this morning. The weather is just clear and nice. It's just, the humidity's low, it's very quiet out on our front porch. And I was just thinking how nice it is. And I try to do that more and more, and encourage folks out there to do that, where you just stop for a moment, get your head out of your phone, off the computer, just kind of be out and really drink in the moment, where you're at, what you're experiencing. And when you have a higher level of intimacy, or a healthy level of intimacy, then it gives you opportunity to sit back and go, this is good. This marriage is good, and it's worth working on. It's worth enjoying. And yeah, this is good. And that's a wonderful feeling.
Yep, that is.
Rather than feeling trapped.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when it's going well, stop and enjoy it. And even if you have to verbalize it out loud.
Well, I think it would be great and healthy to verbalize it out loud, right? We definitely verbalize when things aren't going well.
Yeah, especially.
So let's
with
verbalize when things are going well.
And guys, listen, men, don't just verbalize it when you're in the bedroom, or when you want to get into the bedroom.
Right.
And that's your opportunity to say, I really like you, baby. It's more of like, no, make sure you're sharing that in those moments when there's not an expectation.
Right.
Now, share it in the moments when it's happening, when you're having that intimate moment in the bedroom. Yes, you're going to verbalize, or you're going to share, what you enjoy about your partner. But when you're just kind of out and about, when you're on a walk with your partner, when you're on a date, you'll be able to say, I'm really enjoying our relationship. I really enjoy being with you. And that builds intimacy as well, that openness and vulnerability.
Excuse me. So if we were to look up the word intimacy in the dictionary.
Yes.
Okay. We would find some words like close, warm, familiar, affectionate, caring, understanding. Okay. So what we talk with couples about a lot of times is you've got to transfer over into that it's an usness, right? And that's what we'll encourage couples toward, is having that usness. No longer is it this individualism or this selfish, there's a you, there's a me, and we make these choices, but it's really changing that mindset to look at yourselves as an usness, right?
Yes.
And when you're doing that, then that helps flourish with that interdependence that you can have with one another, so that you can have closeness, warmness, familiarity, being affectionate, caring, understanding, right?
Yeah.
So having this like deep sense of intimacy or this bond with this one other person pretty much on the planet, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, marriage is like, there's just no other way in a relationship to have all of the things that marriage can provide. And truly, truly, just you really get to know that person. That means you know the good and you know the bad, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a level of vulnerability,
Yeah.
obviously, that goes with that, because it's more than just it's being. You want this to be your best friend. You want this to be the person that knows you the best, right? That is creating that intimacy. That's what you're desiring to do.
Yeah.
Go
The
ahead.
danger.
You have a thought?
The danger is that when you expect your partner to fulfill all your needs, and that you place that upon them, that my spouse is supposed to complete me or fulfill all my needs.
Right. So in talking about the understanding of like nobody else on the planet can understand you, right? We're talking about having that belonging necessarily to this other person in a good way. This is all positive. That's what we're after, right? Is having this. It's a good thing. So in 2004, there was a study that was done that found intimacy involved 2 criteria. The first one was that intimate partners share information. And the way they described it was you have secrets, inside jokes, and information about each other that nobody else knows.
Yeah. Yeah.
True, right?
Yeah, I get that. That's, and I think you and I find that within our relationship, there's a dance that goes on.
Yeah.
We've described it as a dance quite a bit, where you finish each other's sentences, right?
Right. Well, that goes into the second part here. So the second part is that the intimate partners not only share information, but they have a deep understanding of each other. So they don't only share information of, the secrets, the jokes, whatever, but they have a deep understanding of each other. So they know each other's thoughts, habits, inclinations, and preferences.
Yeah.
So that's where, yes, you and I, a lot of times will complete each other's sentences, or you'll say something. And like even on our walk this morning, I'm looking ahead to say something, and all of a sudden you were like, hey, and I'm like, I was just going to say that. So, that is having that deep understanding of each other. And the sharing information side is, you want to have, this is the person that if you've got some jokes, or you have a secret or something like that, this is the person that knows all that detail about you. And when you run into those couples, I think it's obvious when you find couples who really do have this like strong intimacy with one another, or share this strong bond with one another, especially even if we're in a group of people. It's that look that you can give to each other. It's the smile that may come on your face. It's a smirk. Like there's certain things that about each other that nobody else really truly gets.
That's right. You don't share that with anybody else. That kind of connection and connectivity. And when you step out of bounds, when you try to experience that with somebody else. Now, I think it also, that level of intimacy also gives permission to be patient with one another's quirks and So, for instance, one that comes to my mind is that sometimes, and you probably recognize this, I'll ask you a question
Mm-hmm.
and you won't answer me right away,
Yeah.
but you'll sit on it. You'll seem to be doing something else. And in my brain, I do think I would really love an answer right now. I would really love for her just to be
Yes.
responding. Just respond. Just respond right away. And this is not me complaining on the podcast. This is me making an observation. But then my thought instantly goes to, and I've done this throughout our married life, better now than what I did a long time ago. I'm so much more patient and be like, I know that I can ask it, and I'm like, well, I'll just wait.
Yeah.
And when you answer, you answer. And that level of intimacy, I believe, allows for the quirkiness or something that would normally be like just answer, for heaven's sakes. And it's like, no, we have this connectivity that I'm like, no, I can wait on it because it's you. Now, if it was someone else, I would be more like, okay.
I don't know that. I mean, yes, and I do. I think it happened earlier today.
It did.
Because you said,
It
hey,
did.
do you want to go on a walk? And I did not respond right away with yes or no.
I wondered if you heard me.
I did hear you. And I remember.
I know you hear me. I know you do.
I remember I was in the middle of looking at something and I was processing with my brain. And I actually thought to myself, wonder how long David would sit there.
Are you serious? You were thinking?
No,
How long can I torture this man?
Because I know that, honey, yes, I would give you an answer, but it does kind of like, it is funny how you do recognize that about me, and I need to recognize that. I need to be more patient sometimes with you on that when I'm posing the question, but
Did you hear me, David?
It is so funny, though. It is so funny that you bring it up because I literally had that thought because I was like, okay. And that's when I went ahead and answered and said, yeah, we can take a walk. And then I finished with, I don't know, whatever it was that I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's funny.
There you go. So I think that's our level of intimacy has afforded that patience of, I just know that my entire life, I'll just be waiting.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be waiting for an answer. It could be waiting like, okay, when Teresa's ready, we'll go. Which I'm okay with that. I'm really
well,
not.
I know.
And that's not once again, folks. That's not a complaint. It's not a boy. Look at Teresa's faults. I don't see it as a fault. I see it as this is just the ebb and flow. But if my expectations were too high or out of sync, or if I placed upon Theresa this like, hey, my individual needs, like I can't believe it's like whatever disrespectful, whatever someone would speak into that or read into that. It's like, no, you just kind of say, no, this is the dance, right? And you are so patient with many of my quirks, so we can probably list those as well. But yeah, I think that's part of the point is intimacy developed helps you to overlook what would be considered a minor offense.
Sure.
Which I don't even see it as an offense anymore.
Well, and I think to the flip side of that is when you went ahead and got kind of ready to go on the walk, and I threw in a couple of other things that I was in my brain that I wanted to just do real fast, but you were sitting on the front porch there, and I knew today was not a rush day. Mm-hmm. If it is a rush day or I know what else is coming, I respond faster. We leave earlier. We do, we take the walk, we get things done. But I think today I recognize that there wasn't we didn't have to like get right out the door on it. And so I knew that you were okay with that. But that's because I know you and I know so just like you knew me and that I would respond if you just gave me a minute to respond, I also knew you and that you weren't going to be upset if I did this or this before I left.
Well, let's be clear too, as well, that if there was something that was a little less negotiable, or if it was something that I really felt strongly about, I would I would communicate that and say, okay, I know, let's say it's the walk needed to happen by this time. And because I had this 2 hours later and this, then I would clearly communicate it saying, if it wasn't so, but that's the intimacy part that you folks, when you feel permission to be able to say what you want more or less of, or be direct about what your expectations are. Now, the key is not either abusing that or going to that all the time. So in other words, if I constantly would say to you, I asked you a question, hon, you answer the question. Or, hey, you said you want to go on a walk. Let's go. Why did I have to sit here on the front porch so long? Or whatever. No, there have to be moments where there's just, it's more laid back, or you give permission for that. And then, but other times that gives you space then to go to one another when you really have some boundaries or clear expectations or hopes with that. So I think this happens an awful lot for, we hear couples, maybe this will resonate with where to go out to eat or what to eat for dinner. And it's like, well, where do you want to go? I don't know. Where do you want to go?
Right.
And then oftentimes, as the story goes, the guy feels like, well, if I name and get the wrong place, then I get in trouble, kind of thing. It doesn't have to be like that. It can be clearly communicated of, I really don't care where we go for dinner. Do you have a preference? And then to be able, or if it's really like last night, I wanted pasta. We don't have pasta too much.
We don't. We didn't even have any pasta in the house.
Yeah, no pasta in the house. So we door dashed some pasta.
Yeah.
And that's what I was just direct with, because I can often say the level of intimacy is high. So I can say, I don't care what we have for dinner. And that opens up the opportunity where I can say, hey, I really want pasta tonight. And are you good with that? And you responded with a thumbs up, which I appreciated.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, okay. So 2 things to help you to be more intimate, right? Or that they found in this study. Partners share information. Okay. They have secrets, inside jokes, and information about each other, right? That no one else would know. And I know that you and I have that with each other. And I also know that there's times where we've been with other couples and it's like they're looking at us kind of like, okay, what are you two like doing or what do you know? And so I think it's noticeable for others, right? And then the second thing would be not only the sharing information, but having that deep understanding of each other. So that's where you're understanding each other's thoughts, habits, inclinations, preferences, things like that. It was funny because in this reading here, it gave an example of Elsa Einstein. Elsa Einstein, she was the wife of Albert Einstein. We never hear about Elsa.
He was married?
Do we? He was married.
I didn't even know that.
And she was asked one time if she understood her husband's theory of relativity. And she, of course, said no, but I know how he likes his tea. So that right there.
That's funny.
That is intimacy, right? And so did Elsa need to understand her husband's theory of relativity? Good golly, no. I mean, like, no. Praise God that probably she didn't. He needed a balance in his life, right?
But there's probably areas in her life or in her mind that he doesn't quite understand.
That he doesn't, right.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. But she knew how he likes his tea. She knew preferences of things that he enjoyed and stuff like that. So she had a deep understanding of him. But I found that funny.
That is.
When I read that. So, okay. So we have these 2 things, right? And we've already talked about like intimacy is so needed and so important, and truly can be like that. Not enough of it is toxic for couples, right? And when things are going good, it's kind of like fuel for the marriage, right? It's just like we're we're hitting on all cylinders, you could say. But in some of the study with other couples and some of the research that's been done, they have also found that there are times where there are certain people within the relationship or couple, both individuals feel that sometimes that closeness with the other person is constricting.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that?
Well, it can be. Yes, in some cases, that's a legitimate concern when it's overly protective, overly controlling, overly, if you have a spouse or partner that's like that. But
well, it can also, like we talked about, they're going to know all of you. So they're going to know the bad parts and the good parts.
Yeah.
And so that's where some of it, I think, is, it can be a little constricting because it lets somebody into your dark side.
So in regards to, okay, so there's an unhealthy,
or you feel like you're under surveillance.
Yes.
All the time.
So there's unhealthy extremes,
right?
Where an individual may feel like, oh, my spouse controls way too much, and it's true. There could be some truth to that. There could be truth to an incredible disconnection with one another where neither one knows or cares what's going on with the other. But let's talk about a balanced relationship where there's intimacy, and if one feels controlled, it could be as well to check our individualism and our independence and our kind of selfish spirit is another way to say it, where if we really have this too strong of a desire to kind of have it our way all the time, or I get my own thing, and it's like, and there's no connection whatsoever. We've seen this happen time and time again with individuals in a relationship that their hobbies take over, and they don't have anything to do with their partner.
Right.
Or work the hobby
takes over
doesn't,
or whatever.
The work or the
absolutely.
hobby has nothing to do with their spouse at all, ever, and the person is consumed by work or hobby. And now this can happen also. Listen up, mamas. Children can become a distraction where, and hear us clearly, children are a blessing from God. But when they become the all-consuming focus for mama particularly,
right?
And we're not advocating neglecting your baby, but keep in balance, because you're still married. You still have the most important relationship. So you are able to walk and chew gum simultaneously. So in other words, you are able to parent well, care for that precious little life, and have a healthy marriage. But it's those that become so preoccupied and compromise the intimacy of with their marriage.
Right. Absolutely. So we want to keep everything in a healthy range and a healthy balance. And at the same time, we want to grow our intimacy with each other. So while we had those two criteria where we share information and we have this deep level of understanding of each other, there are two factors that they have found that makes lasting intimacy possible.
Yeah.
And those would be communication and conflict management.
There you go.
So
there you go.
And we've talked about
drop
this.
the mic.
I know.
That's a walk off.
It is. And we have gone over conflict. We've gone over communication. We have done, before we started doing our podcasts, we had Facebook Live. We spent a lot of time talking about conflict resolution. And good communication. You got to have certain skills. You got to have tools in the tool belt that manage both of those. So when you have those tools in the tool belt and you can utilize them on a consistent basis, that will increase intimacy as well. There's nothing better that helps increase the intimacy more than communicating well with each other and being able to manage when conflict arises, because conflict will come no matter how intimate you think you are with your partner. There's always going to be some conflict.
Yeah, of course, we would point to previous resources that we've provided. Through
right.
YouTube or
Right.
Facebook or our podcast.
Right.
But for today, though, honey, it would be a good idea. That's some real practical communication and conflict resolution as we wrap up our time together. Would just daily set aside that time. First, for communication, daily set aside that time to talk about things more than just business. More than business items. Do puzzles. Make sure you share how your partner can be helpful with you. Make sure you to you that day.
Right.
Make sure to share what your hopes are and desires for physical connection with one another. Right. Make sure you share appreciations with one another every day, and then make sure you're sharing with one another on a regular basis the what you look forward to in the short term, the mid range, and the long term. And then when you do have conflict, it's building intimacy with one another, but choosing to have healthy assertiveness, being direct with one another, but in great love. Watch your stress animals coming out, the negative responses.
Right.
And if you need to take a time out and step back for a moment, do that. Take a time out so you can get into your thinking brain for healthy conflict resolution. And you'll build intimacy the more you have some victories, even small victories of conflict resolution.
Absolutely. So once again, if intimacy is the most powerful predictor of satisfaction and happiness in marriage, all the more reason you should be working on it every single day, because it really will be something that you have to consistently have effort going into, especially knowing that these two key factors that help increase it are communication and conflict management. Because you can share a secret, you can have an inside joke, you can have that stuff, or I can know preferences that you have, like for eating out, or or something like that. It still cracks me up to this day. Like sometimes when your kids, will suggest a place or whatever, and I just kind of sit there and I'll say, your dad has never liked that place, and they'll be like, what, and I'm like, guys, who has raised you? I'm like, good Lord. But I know that preference for you, right?
Yeah.
But if you and I have a knockdown drag out fight every single day because we have a disagreement of opinion, which is what conflict is, and we've never been able to learn a good skill or trait for getting conflict management together, it's not really going to matter how much our intimacy still isn't going to grow as deep, because it's not going to go beyond, we have an inside joke with each other, and I know your preferences for going out to eat.
Yeah.
It's got to go deeper than that. So I feel like there are couples that we've coached over the last, how many years now? 2006 to 15 years.
Yeah.
That, they kind of have a little bit of like an intimacy, but it's almost like that. It's like that, your first crush type of deal. It's kind of like, okay, but it's like, no, you want to get beyond like first crush type of intimacy, and you got to develop and work on some of these skills so that you can have the long lasting intimacy where this person, they know you. Yeah. And your marriage is on a good pace and good level.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is all really good stuff. And I'm clock watching here and seeing that we're at the end of our time with the folks. And folks, we just want to encourage you to build the intimacy in your relationship day by day. It is not something, it kind of reminds me of, even as I was sitting on the front porch this morning and I was looking at our flowers as I was waiting to take our walk. So I have a productive thinking time of and there's some of our flowers that aren't doing so hot. And I thought, well, I'm keeping them watered. And I just consider like the environment that those flowers are sitting in.
The soil,
and so many of them, it has to be just right, or it's not they're not going to do well. So folks, daily connect in your marriage and work on, get the right fertilizer in there, get the right watering, get the right sunshine on your marriage. Daily work through the things that are going to build intimacy in your marriage. So, before we sign off, as we do every week, our verse of the week is?
So our verse of the week comes out of 1 Peter 5, 6, and 7. Says, "So humble yourselves under the mighty power of God, and at the right time he will lift you up in honor. Give all your worries and cares to God, for he cares about you."
That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Thank you, folks, for tuning in once again this week. And we appreciate your patience as we were hacking and coughing off the mic as much as we could and pushing through our head cold foibles. So next week, hopefully we'll be a lot healthier. You cannot catch a head cold through a podcast, ladies and gentlemen, so no worry for that. But you can like, subscribe, follow, rate, review, and you can share this podcast with others. And we really would love for you to do so, because it's all about reaching as many couples as possible going forward. So will you help us to do this?
And we appreciate all of those who have already shared it with others and given a rating or review. We see you out there, and we do. We thank you for that very much. So
yeah, thank you so much, one another couples, and we will see you next week.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.